Hey everyone, welcome back. So just a quick update after last week where I'd been working on removing those the battery tray and just sorting out those spot welds and stuff. Since we stopped filming there, I've gone through, just put a skim of body filler over the imperfections there, sanded it back, and got some proper automotive seam sealer along that that little crack that'll protect that from water going in, and then of course got a coating of zinc over the top of it to protect all the steel, and then some white paint over the top of that. So where does that leave us for this episode? If you remember, I came to a grinding halt down the back of the car a few episodes ago because I was going to do the brakes and then found out that I needed to replace the wheel bearings, and I couldn't replace the wheel bearings because I didn't have the tool. So this guy engages with the ring nut, and then of course you've got a hex on the back that you can undo it with, and more importantly put a socket and a torque wrench on to make sure you get it up to the right tension again. So once I've got the wheel bearings, those kits, I've got two kits, one for each side. Once those are in place, then we can go about replacing these drum brakes that used to be on the back of the Brumby, and we will fit those with Mickey's supervision with the Outhouse's disc brakes, which are actually a serious upgrade in braking performance. The other thing is, of course, the Subaru ones, the later model ones, still have a drum on the back, but that's purely for the handbrake. That means that our handbrake is moved from the front wheels to the back. Let's crack on with that, and I'll get those wheel bearings replaced, try to do that as quick as I can, and then we can move on to fitting the new parts onto the Brumby. This is the hub shaft with the bearings in there that we want to replace, and of course the ring nut on the back that's holding it all in place. So my understanding is this is a lot easier if you take this whole trailing arm off the car and put it into a vise on the bench. I've already gone around, I've disconnected the brake hose, which has already made me bleed, so we're off to a great start there. And I've also gone through and put a little bit of penetrating oil onto all the nuts and bolts, so that should make life easier. Now in doing so, I've also given this a bit of a wiggle, and you probably won't hear it on camera, but this guy is making a bit of a gurgling noise. Maybe that's normal, maybe it's not, but they do look pretty old. I want this thing to handle nicely. So if you know of a better shock than the Monroe GT gas shocks, then please drop me a comment down below. So no further messing around. I just need to crack on and get these bolts out of here. Then we can get the trailing arm over to the bench and start this job. One bolt out. Maybe not. This time I'm asking nicely. Yep, there we go. Excellent. Actually, this would be a lot faster with the impact gun, wouldn't it? Oh yeah, that's way faster. And there we have it. To the vise. Okay, so here's our trailing arm in the vise, and this is the ring nuts, this guy here. I've just given a quick clean up, nothing too serious, but just try to get the crud out of these bits where the tool will engage. And you see the very edge of the housing is actually quite thin, and that's been used, driven in a little dent here to help lock that ring nut into place. So yeah, the 200 odd Newton meters seems like a little bit of overkill, but anyway, what my plan is I'll just dent that bit out, and then I can put the tool on there. He just goes on, that'll look like that, and then I can put a big ass socket on him and see if we can get him off. Right, ooh, nice fit. Okay, got the cat supervising, so I'll start with this guy just to see if I can do this without scaring the cat. Ooh. There we go. You all right, Scallywag? Cool. And there we have it. A little bit dirty. It's actually got that inner seal in it, if that makes sense. Yeah, there is a will, there is a way. Oof, there's the outer seal. Okay, now I believe this should just tap out. Or not. Not today. Extract spindle inwardly by tapping it from the outside with a plastic hammer. Nope. Yeah, see, another option would be to try and press this out, but I'm pressing it from that way, which means this side is going to have to be supported, and that's just got that thin lip, which I don't want to damage that because I need to reuse that when I put the ring nut back in. They do say you just hammer it out, so maybe I just keep hammering. Now it's moving. Because we've got this little indent, and I don't want to hammer over the edges of this, so if I put him in there, and he moves. I like it. Editor Walt jumping in here for a second with the health and safety hat on. Don't be like that guy, he's an idiot. Hammers are made out of hardened steel, which inevitably is brittle, so if you bash two of them together, the shock can cause them to shatter. Don't do it that way, find another way. Anyway, with that said, let's get rid of the hat, because nobody likes that guy, and jump back into the video. At what point is that just going to fall on the floor though? I think that's just about to fall out. System worked. All right, so there it is. There's our bearing race. Now I just have to disassemble that somehow and extract outer race of inner bearing, spacer, and outer bearing. So is that? It actually looks like it's one part, but I think there's our inner and our outer races, and that'll be the spacer. By pushing the inner race off outer bearing through the spindle by a press. Maybe English wasn't their first language. I think I've got enough purchase on that at the bottom, so let's just start going down. Oh, that's tight. Oh, that's tight. Note to self, don't touch that until it's had a chance to cool off. Nope. I think I'm going to have to cut it off. And it's split. Yeah. Yep. So there we have a cross section of the outer race. Okay, so here is our shaft still with the inner races and a spacer in between them. So what I'm going to do is still try and press them out, but if I can get just that first race, then I've probably got a better chance of just driving this guy down, and then I can take the spacer out. He should be pretty easy to get off, and then hopefully that last one. So I'm trying not to get all of them off in one go. So let's see if that works. Otherwise I might be cutting these guys off as well. It moved, it moved. Hey, we're away. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so there's our bare hub shaft. Now the bearing that we're putting on there actually has two bearings in it, one at either end. The inner race for the inside, which will be the first one that I put on. I've marked which one is that race and the corresponding mark on the outer race. So he will go on first, and you see he's got the little roller bearings on him. What I need to do first is pack this full of grease, and then he will go on the shaft till he sits down firm up against that, and then the outer race will go on, and then the other bearing, which will also need to be packed with grease, will then press over the top and clamp it all together. That's the plan. So it's a bit of a messy job, but it's just a case of working it in there, using it in the palm of your hand. And what you want to do is just keep packing it in until the grease comes out past all these rollers. That way you know that it's full. Okay, so after the disassembly giving me quite a bit of grief, the reassembly's actually gone really easily, which is good. And so I've got my new seal packed into the ring nut, and I'm just giving him a little bit of grease to help him out, and then ready to screw the ring nut in. Install the ring nut to the housing, and we torque it to 172 to 221 Newton meters. This is going to take a while to wind up to 172. Let's just go for 175, eh? Okay, there's our 175. I want to sort of get close to the halfway mark, I suppose, so why don't we go for 195 next. There we go. And I think I'll leave it at that because I need to just tap one of these guys over anyway, and that's going to hold the locking nut in place. Just got to chuck the seal in the other side, knock over that tab. That took way longer than I thought it was going to, so I won't bore you guys while I do the other side. Maybe we'll just crack on with this side in the meantime and see if we can fit some new parts from once he's back in the car. Okay, it is a new day, very brisk one. 1 degree Celsius this morning, so yeah, not that warm, but anyway, it's an exciting day, or it's exciting for me at least. So what have we got here? So this is the braking assembly off the right rear. This lot here, it goes on around that way, that's all our equipment off the Outback. So we have the rear disc, which includes the drum for the handbrake. So there's the handbrake mechanism, and there's the caliper for the disc, for the main brakes. Now this backing plate, as we found out on an earlier video, doesn't fit our adapter that will adapt the backing plate onto the Brumby's trailing arm. If you have a look at this, see this fella will sit in like that. But you see, these are the 3 holes that mount onto the Brumby's trailing arm on the rear suspension, as opposed to the 4 holes that would normally mount that onto a Legacy or an Outback. So this adapter plate positively locates all this, but we do need to drill out those holes. So I have scribed where they go, but there is another small problem. So these were off a Legacy 93 to 96, and these were off an Outback or Legacy Liberty to those in Australia, that was a 2007, so it's later model and probably a bigger, heavier car, because you might not see if you can see it, but yeah, this one is physically bigger. So 2 options. The first option that I don't like is running with this and getting the matching disc and caliper, so then I can do full assembly using the 96 rather than the 2007 parts. The reason why I don't like that is that's a smaller brake. Plus also then I've got the 2007 front brakes and a 1996 back brakes, and will the balance be right? Plus as well, trying to remember that if I'm ordering brake pads for the front or discs for the back, which ones I've got. I'd rather keep it all the same gear. So why is that a problem? Well, the backing plate is, sorry Mick, is pretty snug. Bit too snug really. Whereas when you have a look at it on the backing plate that it's supposed to fit on, look at all that space around it. There's heaps in there. So a couple of options there. Yes, I have been thinking about this overnight. A couple of options. I could just undo all the spot welds, whistle this surround off and put it on there. We all saw how my spot welding attempts went in the last episode, so I'm thinking for now, because I want to start making some progress, I want to start getting some parts fitted to this car and not spend too much time faffing around. So to that end, by my thought, with that being close, like it's actually sitting in there, all I've got to do realistically is fold these out a little bit just to gain, you know, even if it's only 5mm of clearance all the way around the outside. Simple solution is just to work my way around it. But how do I hold that in place? So I've had another thought about that as well. Here's our spindle that I pulled apart yesterday to get this backing plate off, and now I'm thinking maybe I chuck it back on there, because if I do that, lock him on there, drop him in there, that and that is all located perfectly, won't move, and I can then lever against the disc and make sure I get an even gap all the way around. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Now, we lost a little bit of paint in the process, which is not unexpected, and it's a little bit rough. You're going to see that, and I can always come back and tidy this up. The key thing is to start assembling. So I think that should give us enough clearance around it to at least get it assembled. So moving on to the next step, I've got to get these guys drilled out. I think we're now ready to go. Which way is this? That way, isn't it? And this way. Look at that. Nice snug fit. All right, so these guys come in from the front. And this guy will come in from the back. All right. Happy days. All right, so just given it a basic clean and just hit the bare metal with a bit of black zinc. So now what we've got to do is get all of these parts transferred over here. So best I do that with this guy already sitting in place. I am no expert on drum brakes. Getting used to me saying I'm no expert on things now, aren't you? But let's just give it a go. No, he didn't want to come off. This one. That was unpleasant. Rotate it, quarter of a turn, and then does that all just come off? I think it does. Very, very carefully, so as not to disturb anything. Oh no. Oh no. Held in place with a slot. No slot. What am I going to do about that? Okay, so here's the problem we have. This is our new backing plate, and you see these holes are round. And here's the old backing plate that's got our donor brakes on it, and these are slotted. This is the handbrake assembly. It uses these pins which go in there, rotate them round and lock into place. Easy peasy, right? Except for that ain't gonna work in here. Yeah, not great, is it? Anyway, not much I can do about that at this particular point in time. That does mean that I'm kind of grinding to a halt with this work, which is pretty disappointing. I've already made a phone call and sent out an email just to see if I can locate some more internals, handbrake internals that are going to work on that backing plate. They'll be out there. I've just got to source them and get them sent in, and that obviously isn't going to happen today. So yeah, I've still got to get the other side to this point as well. So I've got to replace the wheel bearings on the left-hand side of the Brumby, and I've got to drill out the backing plate, ready to accept our new adapter plate and so on. So I might as well crack on with that so that I'm not wasting time. But I won't waste your time by making you guys watch what you've already seen. So leave that work with me, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode of the Brumby build. See ya.